going back to Davante Adams here, what would it look like from a financial standpoint? Because I heard that there's an out after this year. So I believe you'd only have to pay, not only, because the Bills have about $3.9 million in cap space right now. And Adams has a huge contract that extends for the next couple of years. But I think there's an out after this year. And if you acquire him at the deadline, you would be on the books for $13 million. Is that accurate?
Depends when you acquire him. So if you're talking about literally at the deadline, you're more in the 8s. So it'd be about 8.5 at that point. So he actually
right now.
Yeah, right now. So every game, $1 million comes off that number. So it depends when you trade for him. And compared to the deadlines, around 8, little over 8. So 13 now, 8 at the deadline. And then, I mean, you can make the Raiders restructure his contract. Everyone's like, you got to redo the deal. You don't have to redo it. Restructuring a contract. Let me get this out there for anyone listening on the show. It doesn't have to do with Davante Adams. Restructuring a contract, you don't need to rip up a contract and make a new deal. You process paperwork. You literally put in a fax. It used to be a fax. I still think it was as recently as last year, or an email. And you say, we're restructuring his deal. Davante Adams gets his salary up front. You spread the cap space out, just like the Bills did right before the season started. It's not a new contract. It's just you're paying him up front in a signing bonus. That number then is reduced for his current pay because he just got it all. And then it's spread out throughout the course of your cap. Now, when you go and trade that player, that's now dead cap space because you've paid that player money. You need to account for it on your salary cap. So the Bills would benefit because now he's got the Amari Cooper deal where he's at $1.2 million at base salary, and the rest of it's already been paid to him by the Raiders. The Raiders would do that for a better draft choice. So right now, I'm not sure they're going to get the high pick that they think they're going to get if they're trying to stick somebody at this point with $16 million or 13 at the moment. So that's going to be, and now he's not playing. So they're going to have to already for a week or two pay him $1 million a game to not play before they trade him. So they're already kind of doing it. So it depends when he's traded, but I personally don't think that they're going to. The Bills ate a bunch of cap on Diggs. They're personally going to do it. And it's almost a rental because next year you have some team options. Like he's going to make $33 million a year, but none of it's guaranteed. He's going to have to redo his deal. No one from the Jets to the Bills to the Saints to whoever you think's interested. He's not going to play on that deal in the next 2 years. No guarantees on it. He's basically either going to redo it or he's cut. So it's more or less a rental to help your offense out this year, but at what cost? And then at what future cost if you're going to keep him?
Now, I will say the Bills have that extra second-round pick from trading away Stephon Diggs. So, you could make it work from a draft standpoint, but just a financial standpoint, it's just a lot of money when you said, he's under contract for the next years above $30 million. And I think, again, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, the Bills tried to get out of paying wide receivers $30 million. Now, what do you think about Amari Cooper? Because the Browns redid his contract so that the acquiring team would only be on the books for $900,000. Correct?
Right. But the difference, the Bills will not make a trade with his current contract. So it doesn't matter. I'm assuming that whether it's Cooper or Adams, they're going to have the same contract. So Cooper and Adams are both rentals. Cooper's going to be a free agent. They're going to have the same cap implications. So the Bills can't make the trade without that. So I can't even assume. So maybe if Brandon Beane did make the call, it isn't about, hey man, you want a second, you want a third, you want a fourth. It's more about how much money are you willing to eat of the contract? Oh, you're willing to eat it? All right, let's have a conversation. You're not? Okay, click. I think that's more what the conversation is over, talking about second round pick, third round pick, fourth round. If they'll say yes, I'm going to eat the contract, I think then the Bills go back to their team and they hear what's going on in terms of draft compensation. So I think that's how you would handle it. But to your point with Cooper, he's a rental. He's only going to make $1.2 million. It would only cost you $900,000 for the rest of the year. No different than any other veteran on your roster. And that's how it would be with Adams too. The difference is the cost, the most likely cost of compensation of a draft choice for the rental. But I think they're both rentals, to answer your question. Either way, neither of them are seeing next year. And the $33 million that Adams is owed is not actually owed. Look at that as non-existent. No one's paying that. It's not actually a piece of a contract. There's no future money owed to Davante Adams.
So what would the difference be? Let's say that the Bills were to trade for Amari Cooper or they were to trade for Davante Adams. How much would they be paying that player? How much would they count for on the cap for the 2024 season then, after you're saying that you can kind of restructure these deals and not have to pay it all in full?
Say that again. So how much are the Raiders on the hook for the Bills?
No. So I guess we'll start with Amari Cooper. So I was just saying how,
Okay.
the acquiring team would only have to pay 900,000. And then with Adams, it would be 13 million starting now, but then that decreases. So I guess from a salary cap perspective, because you're saying that there's these different ways, the different cap ramifications of kind of reworking the deal. So I guess best case scenario, what are you saying that it would cost the Bills on the cap for Adams? And what are you saying that it would cost the Bills on the cap
Same.
for Cooper?
The same.
But what's that number though?
900,000.
Oh, so you're saying that Adams can go all the way down to
Correct.
900,000?
Yes. So what I'm saying is what the Bills are calling, if they're actually calling, which I think is probably true, they're basically asking them, are you taking on his salary or not? And they're waiting for that answer. If they say no, I'm assuming it's a click or let me know if you are. If they are willing to take on the contract, I believe that conversation continues. So that's what I'm saying is that what Amari Cooper did to his contract already, he's already done it, is what the Bills are asking, or a lot of teams would be asking the Raiders to do for Adams. They're saying,
Okay,
all right, get his contract to the same level Cooper is, and let's have a conversation. If not, trade him to the Jets. I even think the Jets would ask for some of that. So ultimately, that may be where he ends up with New York because they may be willing to pay more of the money than other teams. But the Bills are going to call, or other teams are going to call and say, you're going to make his number the same as Cooper, right? Yes. Okay, let's talk about this player. But either way, I think both players are under $1 million of cap hit, or the Bills aren't acquiring them. So for our purposes on our show and talking about the Buffalo Bills, neither of them are coming, or anybody, if they're not willing to redo their contract. Cooper's is already done. Their Bills would ask for Adams to restructure his contract to be paid up front, and then the Bills will take the rest of the contract, which is base salary of minimum contract.
Okay, so we talked about the financial side. So clearly there is a route to acquiring one of these wide receivers here that we're talking about between Davante Adams and Amari Cooper, or maybe there's a third option. You mentioned Cooper Kupp or Brandon Ayuk already got signed, so that's kind of out of the window at this point. But I want to talk about it from a football perspective, from a schematics perspective, because again, as great as it would be to have Davante Adams, right? If you're going to say, do you want Davante Adams lined up out wide or Mac Hollins? Everyone in their right mind is going to say Davante Adams. But if the Bills decide that they don't want to get Adams or Cooper, and they say, you know what, we're going to stick with our philosophy, because just because we got blown out to the Ravens doesn't mean we're going to have to abandon what we've been telling our team, our organization, our fan base for the past 7 months about how we run our offense. I think that there's a bigger problem here, and that is they are not getting the production from the bottom half of their receiving core. So if you look at their top 4 receivers right now, in order in terms of yards, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and James Cook. And I think that is pretty much on par with what at least I thought. I don't know if you had those as your top 4 receivers going into it, but I figured that Shakir and Kincaid would be working over the middle. And honestly, Shakir's production is a little bit up, Kincaid's a little bit down, but either way, the two kind of balance each other out. Keon Coleman, he's pretty much doing what I expected. He's going to be that run blocking wide receiver, the big body, contested catch, go down the boundary, red zone target. Not going to be that flashy Stephon Diggs wide receiver one yet. I'm not saying he's never going to be, but that's pretty much what I expected Coleman to be, to use his basketball skills to his advantage while he gets acclimated to the NFL. Then I figured Joe Brady would use James Cook pretty much exactly how he's going to. But if you look at the bottom half of their box score here, Ty Johnson is their 5th leading receiver, and you're paying Curtis Samuel $8 million a year. And he has 8 catches for 48 yards. Dawson Knox, who signed that 4-year, $52 million extension. Now, granted, the Bills reworked that in the offseason, so it's not as hefty, but he's still paid. Yeah, I believe he's still the 13th highest paid tight end based on average annual value. So he has 3 catches for 30 yards this year. Mac Hollins, again, Mac Hollins isn't going to scare anyone by any means, but you signed him for a reason. 4 catches, 46 yards. MVS, 2 catches for 26. So I think that the Bills need, if they want to go based on this philosophical approach, you need a wide receiver who has speed, who has separation abilities, and can get yards after the catch. The Bills rank 6th in the NFL right now in yards after the catch. That dropped from 2nd after that Ravens game. But I think that it starts with trying to get someone like a Curtis Samuel more involved. I don't think that they need to abandon this experiment of everybody eats and let's see if Josh can kind of, piece it together just like Patrick Mahomes would. I don't think that just because we've reached a quarter point of the season that you need to abandon that just because Davante Adams became available. I think that it starts from within, and they need to explore more options with someone like a Curtis Samuel. Line him up out wide, put him in the slot with Shakir potentially being out this week. Maybe that's an avenue for Curtis Samuel to get more looks, because that's what I think this team needs right now. They need more of those intermediate routes, 15, 20, 25 yards, and that's what they're not getting.
I just don't think Curtis Samuel's very good. So that's my opinion. So sure. I think it comes down to, yeah, I agree with Roy. That's my exact opinion where who's eating? Josh Allen, who else? James Cook has had some moments. Shakir's good. You read them off. Who else? I like what Coleman can do. Maybe just like last year when we thought let's see what we can do with, and Samuel's better than say Deontay Hardy or Trent Sherfield. Sure. But we went all season and still didn't have that production. At least the team still had Gabe Davis, Diggs, and Shakir. So ultimately, how long is enough though? 4 games, okay. 8 games, 12 games. You're gonna give it a season to where now you're the 4 seed. At some point, I think if you're able to add another dynamic player, it's not to say, and I've been consistent with this, even at every position. I don't need you to go out and add some middling receiver that will just take away from Samuel. It doesn't make any sense. But if you got at least a threshold player of wherever you want to rank it, wherever you want to draw the line, I think above that line, you need to think about it. You don't need to just go out and try to acquire, it doesn't really matter, somebody that's not going to barely see the field. There is a player, there's levels to this. There is a range of a player that I think would immediately come in, just like Rasul Douglas did, at a harder position, in my opinion, and get it going. Look, Curtis Samuel, he got paid a lot of money. Ultimately, his EPA is negative. That means that he's playing worse than the average play outcome of style of receiver. So I just don't know that I don't need Davante Adams to come in and be the number one and only guy to ever play again. I need him to come in and actually draw things away. If Diggs wasn't producing, he was drawing coverage away, though. He was valuable, even though he was outproduced by Khalil Shakir. This is just like I said about Mike Edwards. This is Curtis Samuel's time. If Khalil Shakir doesn't play, that receiving core is a mess, in my opinion. It's just not very good. And if Curtis Samuel can't produce this weekend, I'm done with him. It might be week 5. I don't care what week it is. If he can't produce as the only guy in his role, he's being blocked by Shakir right now. I was actually a proponent of just draft Malik Washington, just draft good guys. But at some point, you can't do that because they are blocked by guys ahead of them on the depth chart. And Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid are blocking these guys from playing a lot. And we're seeing that. We're seeing him try to get action in trick plays in the backfield, maybe out wide. He's not playing probably what he should be playing in the slot. For me, that's what it comes down to. And this is his time to shine. If he doesn't produce this weekend, I'm going to be even harsher on Curtis Samuel because he's beyond this toe injury, unless we come out and hear it's serious. And I think he's been overpaid. I think he's never produced. He used the quarterback excuse to this point of his career prior. The only other time he's produced is with Joe Brady many, many, many moons ago. And we've had the quarterback excuse. We've had multiple teams now. He's just a 300, 400-yard receiver. That may be what he is, and the Bills overpaid for that. That's what it comes down to. But he still got time to prove me wrong. I wanted Tyler Boyd over him. So we'll see how that ends up turning out in terms of what this looks like. But he's never produced, and he's in one of the categories of a guy that was good many years ago. And I'd rather the Bills have a 2-2 Atwell personally. So he's got a chance though. This weekend's his chance. This weekend's his time to put it on record that he's good, and he's just being blocked by Kincaid and Shakir. If Shakir's out, this is Curtis Samuel's time to shine. I just don't know that you want to double and triple down on that just because you did it. We'll see. They're going to, and you're right. The most likely outcome is that they have to double down on it.
Getting these guys more involved.
I would say that's the odds on favorite. That's more of the favorite than them actually making a move to acquire Adams or Cooper.
I think that's how I'll finish this up here, and that'll kind of transition us into formulating the game plan here. How I'll leave it is, as of right now, I'm going to say no. I'm not expecting Brandon Beane to pull the trigger tonight. We're going to wake up in the morning and Davante Adams is a Buffalo Bill. I think it's more logical that they're going to keep experimenting here and they're going to work with the players that they have on their roster. And they're going to try to get someone like a Samuel more involved, maybe a little bit more MVS. I know that MVS is not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but I think he can do more than just 2 catches for 26 yards. I think Dawson Knox can do more than just 3 catches for 30 yards. Matt Collins can even give us a little bit more. So that bottom 4, the top 4 is pretty much on par with what I expected, but that bottom 4 is really low right now. So I'm going to take the next few weeks, see if I can reignite that, try to get them going. And then if you get to the deadline, which is pushed back a week this year, if you get to early November and you say, you know what, it's really not working and we're still winning, but this could come back to bite us, then you go make that move. But I'm not going to get too aggressive right now just because the Bills lost to Baltimore the other night.